Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. We are just getting to the thick of it. We are in the golden age of Simpsons, boys and girls. I am doing a casual review for The Simpsons second season. And this season I'm definitely a lot more familiar with than the first season. This season has a lot more polish, the jokes are a lot more funny, and I am just so excited to get talking about it. There's so many more episodes than in season 1. Lots of things certainly get established here. And watching the second season just really reminded me that The Simpsons is just TV comfort food. Like it just brings such a joy and comfort into my house whenever it is playing on the TV and just filling I can't explain it. It's just filling my house with the sound of The Simpsons, and because it was so prevalent in my life growing up, it's just comfort food for me. I just love having it on, even if I'm not entirely watching it, like giving it 100% of my attention. I just like to have it as background noise while I'm playing like a video game or cooking or just anything like that. I just love having it on in my house. Now, before we get any further, I just really have to apologize. I can't believe I didn't show this off during my first season casual review, but one of my favorite shirts, my Springfield Isotope shirt right here, it's a baseball shirt, which I really like. I like the 3/4 sleeves. It's really comfy. It's starting to fade right here a little bit, unfortunately, but it's my Springfield Isotope shirt. My city actually has a minor league baseball team. Before the whole COVID pandemic started, we would go see this minor league baseball team every summer, and I've worn this shirt to that game like 3 years in a row now. It's my favorite baseball shirt. It's really comfy. It's just my lounging around the house kind of shirt. But we are not here to do a shirt review. We're here to talk about The Simpsons second season. I have my little episode guidebook right here so I can remember the episodes. There's 23, I think, in this season compared to, I think it was 13 in season 1. And so in order to help me keep track of all the episodes, I will be referencing this sometimes. As for the discs themselves on the second season, I didn't watch any of the discs this time around. I watched it all on Disney Plus, which I did actually figure out the old aspect ratio thing. If you're aware, Disney Plus, whenever you watch Simpsons, they have it stretched out to widescreen mode, but instead of stretching it out, they just zoom in. And normally for like video games, I like my image stretched out to fill up the whole screen. I'm kind of weird like that. But for Simpsons, it cuts off the top and the bottom, so it's cutting off a lot of the jokes. And I did finally figure out in like the settings and the description, you can toggle the true aspect ratio, so you have like the black bars on the left and the right. If you're trying to figure out how to do that, let me know and I will be happy to talk you through it. But I definitely am happy that I was able to figure out how to watch it in its traditional aspect ratio, so the top and bottom don't get cut off. But as for the discs themselves, it's kind of I'm so annoyed by this, but it's kind of funny at the same time, where like every time you put in the disc of Simpsons, you have to spin the disc to it like randomizes the character's head and the body. Well, let me just kind of show you the okay, so it's kind of like this, and it spins the disc, so it'll be like Lisa's body with Snowball 2's head. And so you just have to keep spinning it over and over again until finally it gives you access to choose the episodes, which is pretty funny. Also, it does not have a play all button, so instead of just skipping right to the next episode, you have to manually go into each episode. It's just kind of... it's like I have a fondness for the spinning the heads kind of thing, because it's kind of funny, but it's just kind of weird that it like locks you into spinning the bodies with the heads before you have access to the episodes. So I gotta say, I know I was kind of more lukewarm on Simpsons season 1. This season, whenever I'm watching on Disney Plus, it'll say like the play next, kind of like on Netflix. So this is the episode that's coming up next, and it'll say the title of the episode. And I want to say maybe like 90% of the time, I was just so like, oh yeah, that's a good episode coming up, and I always get so excited. There's very little where I'm like, I don't want to watch this one. Every single one is just a hit. We are just in the golden age of Simpsons, just I can't keep gushing about this season. I actually have to talk about it. It's kind of funny because there's definitely a lot of improvement even within the season itself. So like I want to say the first half of Simpsons second season is kind of more little rough around the edges. Not quite Simpsons season 1, but you know, we're still getting our footwork here, but it's like within the season it just improves so much. Just quotes and jokes and funny stories. It's all so intriguing. It just gets better and better as the season goes along. Whereas normally for TV shows, the quality is separated by the seasons because it's almost like they are all like the whole season is developed at the same time. But it almost feels like second season part 1 was developed a year before second season, or second part, season 2. It's just crazy how much it improves even just within the season itself. This is the first season that has the Treehouse of Horror. I believe they changed the name of Treehouse of Horror to like Simpsons Halloween Special, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check on the 3 shorts. I actually skipped Treehouse of Horror this time around because I normally watch all of the Treehouse of Horrors in October. And so I feel like I'm familiar enough with the Treehouse of Horrors that I can skip them this view, along with Bart vs. Thanksgiving. I only watch that during Thanksgiving time. So this episode's actually really funny. It's got the Bad Dream House, where it's like the house that's put on the Indian burial ground. That one was very, very funny. The first appearance of Kane and Kodos as they abduct the Simpsons, and the whole book, like How to Cook for 40 Humans gag was pretty funny. And The Raven. I actually got brownie points in my AP English class because we were studying Edgar Allan Poe, and we were just happening to read The Raven, and I brought up, like, you know, The Simpsons did this, and so my teacher actually pulled it up on YouTube and we all watched it, and I feel like it helped the class relate to the subject material a lot better. So yeah, I feel like the first Treehouse of Horror came out with a bang. There's a couple characters in this season that I'm surprised haven't been more popular in the later episodes. For one, I myself am a Bailey booster, and our beloved governor, Mary Bailey, I believe she only makes like one more appearance in a later season, or maybe just like a reference or something like that, but she really isn't in it that much. The political figure is more Mayor Quimby. Also, the Daredevil with Truckosaurus, the Lance Murdoch, he inspires Bart to jump the Springfield Gorge, and I'm surprised that he wasn't a more prominent character in later episodes. He just seems like a very Simpson-esque character that can be very objectified. Although I am glad that Homer's half-brother, Uncle Herb, does make a reappearance in a later season. I really like Uncle Herb. He's such a good guy, and he's just like the better version of Homer in every way. That whole episode is really good, with him making his own car. There's a lot of classics in this season. There are 2 characters that I'm surprised were actually more prominent in this season that I remember, and one is Mr. Burns. I feel like Mr. Burns has maybe like 4 centric episodes that are centralized around him, and I feel like he's in almost every single episode. Like, he makes some sort of appearance. I always thought of him more as a secondary character, but he's like a main character in this season. Another being Grandpa. So Grandpa Simpson, I always thought his name was Grandpa. G-R-A-N as in Nancy, D-P-A. Grandpa Simpson, like how Grandpa is spelled. But everyone calls him Grandpa with an M, like Mary. And I never picked up on that before. I just can't believe it's taken me this long to realize that. That's basically like his nickname. And I love how all the Springfieldians call him Grandpa Simpson instead of most people, like calling him his real name, Abe Simpson. Also, one more little bit of trivia that I kind of wanted to point out to you guys. Professor Fink, he makes his first appearance in this season, and he brings up his wife. And I know this is going to get more and more common as we go along, because the writers will forget little details, little cameos that characters make. So they never talk about his wife again, maybe in like season 3 or something like that, but as current modern day Professor Fink that we know, he does not have a wife. Oh, also the first appearance of Mole Man, and I think I was watching the commentary one time way back when, and they were saying like, Mole Man, before he even had a name or anything, he shows up at the DMV with Patty and Selma, and he was just supposed to be like a one-time character, but the writers thought he was too hilarious, and they keep bringing him back. I definitely think they use him too much in the modern-day Simpsons, but I just thought that was a fun bit of trivia. I think the cops in this season are definitely interesting too. There's Lou, and then is his name Ed? I'm not sure about the other cop, but in modern day Simpsons, it always seems like it's Chief Wiggum and those two cops. But in this season, I feel like we see those two cops a lot more than Chief Wiggum. I feel like Chief Wiggum stays at the police station more often than not. And these two cops, they're kind of, in modern day Simpsons, they're more like the voice of reason. Like, Chief, maybe we shouldn't do that. But in this season, they are like super corrupt. Like when Homer steals cable, they call him out, and Homer starts apologizing and, hey, whoa, we just want to watch the game, man. Like, they don't care. And then Bart, he's selling a beer, and the cops come up, and like they can be bribed by the beer because Bart doesn't have a liquor license. I don't know, they seem a lot more corruptible, and we actually see a lot more of them than Chief Wiggum. There's a lot of good episodes here. Let's just look through. A couple that I really like: One Fish, Two Fish, Blowfish, Bluefish. This is the one where Homer eats bad sushi and he only has about 24 hours to live. I think this would be a really good like season or episode ending of The Simpsons. We always talk like, how would you end The Simpsons? And I feel like this is a good example of that, where Homer, he has this to-do list, he has this bucket list that he's going through, and he has final closure with all of the characters that are close to him. And I feel like if we had a whole season like this, each episode is focused on a main character of Springfield, and we get closure, we get their story wrapped up, and we just get to see them one last time, I think would be a really good way to end The Simpsons, if it ever does, which I'm kind of doubtful at this point. The Way We Was, this is where Homer and Marge share their origin story to the kids. The TV breaks down and they talk about their time in high school back during the 70s. It's kind of interesting that they actually have a set year, because it does kind of date this episode, but I feel like we kind of know what's going on. We can forgive it. I really like the set pieces of this episode. I really like to see Homer and Marge back when they are younger. This is where their song gets established. Why do birds suddenly appear? It just kind of feels like an 80s movie, even though it is set in the 70s. I imagine the writers were inspired by these 80s high school movies with this drama, with like Prom and Artie Ziff. Maybe 70s movies are like that, but I'm not too familiar with that decade of film. It just it's a really good story and very heartwarming, and I really like the heartwarming stories of Simpsons. Homer versus Lisa and the Eighth Commandment, that's a really fun one. This is where Lisa, she's morally conflicted because Homer is stealing cable, and ultimately she convinces Homer to cut the cable, because if you love someone, you gotta trust they're gonna do the right thing, and Homer does the right thing. I already talked about Homer's half-brother, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That's a really fun episode. Three Men and a Comic Book, this is where Bart does all these chores to save up for a $100 comic book, the first issue of Radioactive Man. And he ends up going together with Martin and Milhouse to buy the comic book, and then they just feud over it in the treehouse. There's just so many funny quotes and one-liners here. There's one where Homer, he's just watching TV, and Marge is like, Homer, can you check on the kids? And he looks outside, and like lightning strikes the treehouse, and the kids are like strangling each other, and then he's just like, they're fine, and he just doesn't care. I don't do these jokes justice when I try to repeat them, but they just crack me up. There's another really funny quote in a different episode where Bart gives Burns a blood transfusion, and they're trying to like steal Mr. Burns' money from the bank. And so Homer goes up to the bank and he's like, hello, I am Mr. Burns. I would like some money, please. And the teller's like, okay, Mr. Burns, what's your first name? And he's just like, I don't know. And it's just the delivery of the line is hilarious. This is kind of, I'm going to go off on a little spin-off here, but I think currently my favorite subreddit is r/The Simpsons. And basically all it is a picture. So the title is a quote, and the picture is like a picture of the scene from the quote in question. And I want to say maybe like 4/5 of the comment section is just continuing the quote of that scene, and maybe only like 1/5 is actually like discourse about the scene. And I just think it's funny because growing up, whenever we'd have family over, we all love The Simpsons a lot. And I want to say, like, that's how all of our conversations went, is just quoting The Simpsons. Like, we never really talked about the episodes, we just quoted them. And I just think it's funny that there's a place on the internet for something like that. I gotta say, though, my favorite episode of this season is another Lisa-centric one. It's kind of similar to Moaning Lisa, but it's Lisa Substitute, where Lisa's teacher, she thinks that she has Lyme disease, and so Lisa gets a really, really good substitute teacher, Mr. Bergstrom. And he's just such a great guy and so inspiring, and the whole episode itself is just so heartfelt and memorable. I feel like the delivery of this is really well done. It's definitely more wacky of a season. Like, imagine a slider between relatable and wacky. And I feel like where season 1 was a lot more to the relatable one, they slid the slider a little bit more into the wacky area, which I think is for the best. I think it definitely makes for more entertaining content. But there is just a little more stuff that can't really happen, like Truckosaurus, like jumping the Springfield Gorge, the whole Homer making a car, and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, and then obviously Blinky the three-eyed fish. Another thing that I like that they introduce in this season is McBain. He's kind of like this die-hard Terminator-type action guy, and they always pepper in scenes from McBain in episodes. I want to say there was maybe like 3 or 4 scenes, and this is kind of a reoccurring gag throughout The Simpsons until much later, maybe like season 10 or something like that. They stopped showing McBain, but I really like his implementation here. It just is fun that they have little clips like this to tie the whole episode, to like really set the mood of the episode. There's one where Homer and Marge, they go on like a couple's retreat to try and fix their marriage, and they're tricking Grandpa into like eating a bunch of ice cream and throwing a party and watching McBain. I also really like that Grandpa, he tricks the kids into cleaning up the whole house because he's pretending to cry and he's really sad. That's such a grandpa move. Also, Homer loves pork chops a lot more than I remember. I think there was like maybe 4 or 5 times Homer just talks about pork chops. He just loves pork chops, and it's just like he looks forward to it so much that Marge, she knows how to make them, you know? She's just a whisper of MSG. Homer himself, he's such a charming guy during this era of The Simpsons. Like, he's a lovable doofus. I like that he keeps on mispronouncing words. He always adds like extra syllables to words. I can't remember any off the top of my head. Oh, there is one, this is the episode where they go away on the couple's retreat, but they throw a party, and he calls like the odors like hose odors, or something like that. But he's just like so confident that he's saying it right. He's just a lovable doofus. I think this era of Simpsons is just really timeless, and it certainly holds up, despite how old it is now. I mean, shoot, when did Simpsons' 2nd season come out even? Let me look it up. Okay, so are you ready to feel old? This came out before I was born. This came out in 1991, and I wasn't born until 1992. And so, despite this being 29 years old, it just is timeless, and it just holds up. And I can still watch this today without being bored. And I'd be curious to hear how the Generation Z would accept something like this. Like, obviously, Simpsons is still around. They know about Simpsons, but I'd be curious to know if they were entertained by some of these earlier episodes or not. If you're Generation Z, let me know. Do you like old Simpsons? But going into this, I definitely thought that 2nd season would be more like a 3 out of 5, or a 4 out of 5 at best, but as the season went along, it just got better and better. I gotta give 2nd season a 5 out of 5. It's just an amazing season, and I feel like I'll be giving that score a lot in the seasons to come, so stay tuned. Well, that should be it for now. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Simpsons or the 2nd season of Simpsons, and I would be happy to talk about it. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!